though it is very preoccupying. Just world shit, life shit. Anyhow, let's talk about Prisoner of Azkaban. That'd be fun. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. So Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is the third Harry Potter film in the Harry Potter movie franchise, also the third book, and it's the first Harry Potter that has a different director, resulting in this movie having a very different tone, very necessary for the Harry Potter movies to evolve. More on that in a second, but it's also the first Harry Potter film to have Michael Gambon as Albus Dumbledore. Yes, Richard Harris, who played Dumbledore in the first two Harry Potter films, he sadly passed away. So I'm gonna take a minute to talk about the differences in the Dumbledores. See, Richard Harris and Michael Gambon both play different aspects of Albus Dumbledore quite brilliantly. See, Dumbledore in the books was very sympathetic, empathetic, compassionate, he's very understanding, old and wise. All the things you would want your old wizard to be. But when it was time to get shit done, he straight up got shit done. He was very powerful and you couldn't pull one past him. He's a very hard line to ride to be a kind, wonderful old person, also someone who's not to be crossed and you can't take advantage of that person because of their kindness. Dumbledore in the books perfectly exhibits the perfect line between the two. And the actors both play different sides of him wonderfully. Richard Harris was the kind, compassionate side of Dumbledore. Michael Gambon, while very understanding, also exhibited a more stern side to Dumbledore. It's like if you took Dumbledore and had a beam split the two sides of Dumbledore's personality, Richard Harris Dumbledore and Michael Gambon Dumbledore would be what emerged as the two sides of the one person. And that is the beauty of art. When you're reading a book, you kind of project what you know as the personality traits into its own self, the literary pages into your mind. However, what an actor has to do is do that and then exhibit what they interpret, and hopefully it's in line with what you see, but it isn't always. Actors have to make the character their own, and I think both actors did it wonderfully, and if you look at the personality traits of both performances, crush them into one, you have Dumbledore from the books. That's my very long tangent celebrating the performances of Dumbledore. And I do this because the importance of Dumbledore is not to be overstated. That said, we have a whole movie to talk about. In Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry Potter learns that there's this prisoner who has escaped from Azkaban prison. Azkaban's a very bad place. Ultimately, it's where they send bad wizards, and these Dementors just kind of sap their souls and keep them there. Yeah, they're soul reavers. So you know this guy, Sirius Black, who has escaped from Azkaban prison, is going to cross Harry Potter's path somehow. Plus the fact that he's played by Gary Oldman. You don't get an actor like Gary Oldman to just not have him interact with Harry Potter. But the tangled web is very much a tangled web we weave in this story. Also, the new defense against the dark arts teacher is Remus Lupin. Yeah, the Harry Potter thing is that they have a new defense against the dark arts teacher every year. South Park would kill Kenny every episode. Harry Potter gets a new defense against the dark arts teacher every year. These are the sticks. But he's also tied in with Harry Potter's parents, and it makes him a little more relevant. But as I said before, this is the first Harry Potter movie that had a different director. Alfonso Cuarón directed this movie. And you completely see the change in tone. When I first saw Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban when it was in theaters, I was like, it's not my favorite. In fact, it's probably my least favorite of all of them. What can I say? I just didn't like change, I guess. But now, under different lenses, the lenses of someone who has learned you have to embrace change in order to survive life, and someone who also reviews movies, I watched this movie in awe. My jaw was dropped for a lot of it. If memory serves, and granted it doesn't always, this is one of the better Harry Potter movies I remember. It's also one of the most important. Tonally speaking, you look at this, there are so many shots, they're magical. When Harry is riding Buckbeak the Hippogriff and his claws are just dangling in the water, it's beautiful. There's also the imagery of the Dementors around Hogwarts. I was like, I want that painting on my wall. It's beautiful in almost a horror aspect kind of way. In terms of atmosphere, I mean, granted, you know it's not a horror movie. It's a Harry Potter movie. Visually speaking, the visuals are there. You see the ice form and the flowers all dying. You see the Dementors' robes going by. I mean, it's very scary. And I can't overstate that in terms of its importance. The first two Harry Potter movies had a very fun vibe, a magical vibe. This was the first movie that was like, let's take it in a darker direction. Granted, it had to because the books did too, but the vibe and atmosphere you see and feel in this movie is in the Harry Potter movie franchise until its end. It was a horse of a different color that changed the color of all the horses to come. Granted, love the first two, but I really love what this movie did. This is the movie that said, nah, kids gotta grow up. The first couple years have their place in the mythos of magic, but it can't be like that forever. Also, this is the first and only movie that doesn't really deal with Voldemort as the main villain in the end. I'm trying to treat these reviews like you haven't seen Harry Potter yet, in that I try to keep them as spoiler-free as possible. Long story short, there's a werewolf fight at the end, and the end has this weird end chapter tacked onto it that deals heals with time. I feel like that is a spoiler just saying that. I said I try. I didn't say I always do. But I thought it was really cool. This chapter is so heavy on family. When Harry and everyone, they're all talking in this shack at the end and you're like, holy smokes, so important. Maybe that was when I first saw the movie, I didn't know who these names were. Like there's a who and a what, and someone was really important, and then the rat turned who, what? But looking back now, as the names are every bit as recognizable as Wicked Witch of the West, Darth Vader. Or maybe not Darth Vader. Definitely Bib Fortuna, though. When they start throwing this name at you halfway through the movie, you're like, I know who he... Oh, okay. Yeah, that dude is a dick. Guys, in the end, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, I would have told you before rewatching these movies, it was one of my least favorite Harry Potter movies. Now it's one of my most favorite. It's in its own class. It's like emo kid that's like, whatever. I'm different than you guys. And it actually is. The Draco Malfoy rivalry has never been more irrelevant. The imagery has never been more interesting. Been more magical in other chapters, but not as interesting as this one. Like I said, I say as memory serves going forward, who knows? Maybe we're gonna be like, no. Order of the Phoenix actually had the greatest imagery. But as I see it right now, Prisoner of Azkaban it baffled me. Blew me away how memory had failed me so much. If you watched The Prisoner of Azkaban back in the day and you're like, it didn't really vibe with me, I really encourage you, give it a second chance. It's an interesting take with great tone and a new theme. John Williams still did the score in this movie, but it has a new theme. I mean, it has the old one too, but it also has this new one. When the end credits were rolling, I was just sitting there listening to it going, oh my gosh, I have no recollection of this theme. And it really should. It's a great piece. It shows that Harry Potter ages with people. It's not like, perpetually kids books. It's kids are growing up and now they're this old so they can handle this. I'm just gonna say it. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, to my surprise, is awesome-tacular. Alright guys, so Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Or what's your favorite part in the movie? Whatever you think, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.